Hello, hello, and welcome back. Today we are talking community, trauma, and what it means to be a minority woman in today's society, and how you get to leverage that for your benefit and for the benefit of your community. And today I have a special guest, Majet Reyes, the owner of DivaGirl Tribe, trauma counselor, and just phenomenal badass. Majet, welcome on. I'm so happy you're here.
I am excited to be here and thank you for having me. And yeah, you lead the way, and I'm excited about this conversation. I love the last part that you put in there about being a minority woman, right, in today's world, and how that is very important, especially when it comes to communities. So I really love that.
Yeah, perfect. So then let's start there because I think that's
Okay.
also part of your story. So before we
hmm
even dive in, let's take a minute to get to know you. So introduce yourself because I feel there is so much more power when we share who we are. So let us know about you, all the things.
Yeah, definitely. I love talking about myself. I'm
I love it.
kidding.
Own it, baby.
I'm
Own it.
totally kidding. So my name is Majet, and I help people find fulfillment through counseling, community, and consulting. So I am a trauma therapist, and I help people who are struggling with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and complex PTSD through trauma work, right? So processing traumas. As a former first responder, so I was a paramedic for 13 years. Most of the
Mm.
people I tend to help in my trauma counseling in my private practice are first responders, medical professionals, teachers, and also creatives, so entrepreneurs. Like I do help them as well. And half of the population I work with are people of color, right?
Oh,
And a few of the people of color that I work with are Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders. So I'm saying this because there's something about me being a person of color as a counselor that people of color gravitate to and want to work with,
yeah.
right? So I'm just throwing that out there. But the majority of the people I work with in my counseling are white, people, and they know more about mental health, and they're more open about mental health, and yeah, a lot of them are first responders and medical professionals. So that is my trauma counselor side, right? And
Right.
then I have this fabulous community
You
called
really
Diva
do.
Girl.
Yes. Whoop, whoop.
and and Diva Girl is a community of a diverse group of women, right, who loves to educate and empower other women with workshops, conferences, parties, volunteer trips abroad, and volunteer opportunities in the Philadelphia area as well. So
Yeah.
our commitment is diversity, right, inclusivity, altruism, and also having fun, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta have fun in business and in life. So that's why it's Diva Girl, right? So
Love it.
we've been to Nepal, Ghana, Peru, Belize, and India. We were in India last year, and these opportunities to be able to go to different countries and be able to connect with the local women, live with them, eat with them, sing with them, dance with them, right, and work with them is one of my favorite things with our community. And of course, the conferences. We just had one in May of
That
this
was
year, and that was our
amazing.
ninth, right? And Chaitali was one of our panelists, and she did a phenomenal job as being part of the community and also inspiring and educating the women who were in attendance. So that was a sold out event, and that was our wellness conference. And in the fall, winter time, we have our She Needs Biz conference. So that is those are the two babies when it comes to my work. I'm also a mother to a 10-year-old rock star girl named Quincy, and
She
I
is
am an
phenomenal.
I love her. She is just she's a rock star. And as an immigrant, I came here in the United States when I was 16, and I cannot cook, but I love to eat, and I cannot sing. I cannot sing, but I love karaoke and I love books and traveling. So that's a lot about me. So I told you
I
I like to.
love it. No, I love it. I love it. And this is the beauty of podcasting, of having these conversations, because when else are you really going to take the time to be like, by the way, here's my story? I mean, I know, also we leverage social media to build our communities, and it's part of the dialogue or the narrative of social media. But in real life, you're not sitting around talking about yourself. So I love that you really delved in. Whether you loved it or not, different story, but I love to hear it because sometimes you need to hear your own story to remind yourself just how much you've done and how
Yeah,
far you've come,
I
right?
agree. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it shows the listeners, the viewers, wherever you're seeing this, it's possible.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
opens up that door.
Yeah. And the opportunity, right, to be able to talk to someone and for someone to give you that space, right, wherein you can be seen and can be heard, right, is truly
Yeah.
important. So thank you to you, right, for being able to have a space like this and allowing me to share who I am to your
No, thank
audience.
you. I love this. And I want to dive into this because I
Sure.
thought it was really interesting that you shared that you're an immigrant also. So I am an immigrant. We came here when I was a lot smaller, a year and a half to be exact. So the
Uh-huh.
narrative around that is very different for me perhaps than you. But
Sure.
what I and I'm sure I kind of feel like this is going to resonate with you. About a year ago, year and a half ago, I had another South Asian woman who was in a mentorship program that I was mentoring in, and she came out of her way to come and tell me, it's so amazing to see someone like you, a fellow South Asian, in that point of power and to be able to help so many. Look, I did not fully receive it in the moment, but
Mm.
damn, that was so
Mm.
huge because we go about our day-to-day life thinking, well, I'm just doing this. Like, okay, here's what I'm going to do today. But you don't always take into account, again, like our story, we don't take account how it lands for people who are watching us, whether they are active viewers or like stalking, whatever, in a
Right.
positive way.
Mm-hmm.
That is so profound. And for
Mm-hmm.
you, I feel that you have that same impact, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be through the counseling, whether it be through Diva Girl, whether it be through everything that you do as a human. Like, it is so important that we get to showcase that, the
Mm-hmm.
possibility. I think that's where this whole conversation is around,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
opening the door for somebody else to see. So
yeah.
when you being a South Asian, that comes with its own rhetoric. It comes with
Uh-huh.
its own traumas that we as adult women get to walk through and to shift.
Yeah, yeah. I love that, right? Like, I want to go back to like when that other South Asian woman came to you and tell you, like, like it's so nice to see you in this position and what you do, right? It's inspiring because we don't get to have that representation a lot. Like
No.
people who look like us don't get to be seen in many different places, right? And maybe now it's different, right? But you know this, like I didn't see this on television. I didn't see, there's more, sure, there are more platforms now, right? And there are niches, right? However, right, that importance of representation and how, that for someone to recognize and see that, you're right, like we just do our thing, right? Not even registering that, oh yeah, I'm a brown woman, right?
Yeah.
Being on this platform, like sometimes
Yeah.
we forget that, right? Like we're just doing our thing, right?
You're just
But
going through the
then,
motions of life, right? And as much as I talk
right,
about intention, sometimes I find it's difficult to hold on to, like, to
right,
remember, oh, by the way, you're a brown woman. Hey. I'm like, who, you don't walk around doing that. Like, I'm intentionally aware, but it's
right,
not like I hold it in the forefront, like, okay, brown girl, let's
right,
go. Like, no.
right, right.
You just get up, put your pants on, and carry on. So
Right.
Anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. So exactly, right? Like, and then for somebody to point that, like, I swear to God, like I had that moment too, Chaitali, where a client, like it was a consultation and it was, it was through Zoom. And then the client actually told me, like, I reached out to you, I picked you, right? Because you look like me. I'm like, okay, like, like when you hear that, like it didn't land for me right then and there. Just I had that moment that you had, right? I'm like, oh, like it's good to hear, right? At the same time, you're like, oh, there's power in that, right? Especially there are people, not maybe power is not the right word, but it's like there's an impact, right?
Yeah,
There
no,
are
power is
people
the
who,
right word. In the positive, not the negative rhetoric that's out there, but in that positive situation to understand that, hey, it is powerful what we are doing. And
yeah,
it's like, oh, you look like me. Okay, you might understand some of the
exactly,
nuances.
yeah, yeah, yes, yes, exactly, yeah.
It's one thing to say, oh, and I'll speak from my own position here, and I think it'll land, and I'd love to hear you on this, or your thoughts on this. Owning your voice is something that I am so passionate about, but
Mhm.
it's because I see what's happening in our communities, my communities, how silence is stronger of a message for women,
Mhm.
right?
Ooh.
And I talked about this at VCon. It's such a strong thing, and the more women who can start to own their voice, you you get to share like this. It doesn't have to be on such a big platform. It can be like at your home over coffee, but
Mhm.
it's having the spin on owning your voice and using it in a positive light versus, sitting around gossiping or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
So, I forget why I'm sharing this. You said
No, no,
something.
no, no. I agree with you on that, right? Like it's like owning your voice is something they're super passionate about, and I think for a lot of Asian women, right, we are conditioned, right, to not talk a lot, right? We are
Yeah.
conditioned to view ourselves a certain way. We are conditioned or programmed that like your opinions don't matter, right? In so many subtle ways, right?
Yeah.
And so for us to be able to show up and use our voice to make waves, right? To stand up for ourselves, to advocate for ourselves, advocate for other women, right? Is very powerful. And that model minority, right? Asians are model minority, and we're hearing this more and more often now since the start of the pandemic. And I didn't even recognize that, right? I didn't even recognize. I heard of it, like the model
I've never
minority
heard
about
of that.
Asians. Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Model minority?
yeah, so in America, right, like Asian Americans do exist, but we're like one of the smallest population in America, and we are considered the quote unquote model minority because we don't make a lot of waves. We
Oh,
don't, like in a
yeah.
way that we don't say a lot, right? We
We don't
just
buck
do
the
our work.
system.
Yes, exactly. We don't question the system. We don't, yeah, and we're well educated. A lot of us are well educated, right? But we're, we have skills. We're skilled workers, but we just do our job, and then we go home, and we pay our taxes and all that stuff. So we don't say a lot. So now, like because of that, like Asian females are sexualized, right? Or xenophobia, and they only see us as what they see on TV, right? Not non-Asians, what they see, or even Asians, right? When we don't see a lot of Asians on TV or on the big screens, but then when they do, it's like the stereotype, right?
Mm,
So since the pandemic, there are more and more Asians coming out, more and more Asian females like voicing out, having a voice, and shaking the system, right? So now um, they're hearing more about Asian females.
yeah.
We are not the stereotypes that the society have a picture of us, right? Like now we're like telling them, hey, like, we're entrepreneurs as well, right? We do have mental health issues, right? We do have, like there's this great television show that's out there called Beef. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's a Netflix show wherein they highlight the struggles and the challenges of Asian Americans in America, right?
Okay.
Like either kids of immigrants or immigrants themselves, right? So it's like now we're hearing stories, more stories about Asians, right? More stories about Asian females and the challenges and the struggles, and it's not a perfect life, right? There's challenges, there's struggles, and we have dreams, and we do love seeing people who look like us on television, right?
Yeah.
On different platforms, and hearing their voices and hearing their stories, so that other people who have the same challenges and experiences know that, oh, I'm not alone,
Yeah.
right? I'm not alone.
That's it
So
right there.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%, because it does make a huge, huge difference. So there's this gentleman, he's like, it's called Art by Shaunak on Instagram. So right now he has this Disney series where he's creating all the Disney princesses, but as Hindu goddesses or Hindu gods. Freaking
Cool.
phenomenal, but it's
Oh.
so cool to see it, and when I see it, like, I smile every time. I'm like, "Oh, wow." Because, there's Princess Jasmine. Okay, kind of, not really. Like, she's the epitome of exactly what we're saying. It's
Yeah.
the stereotypical, "Okay, let's make this princess really sexy, exotic," and I'm using air quotes,
Mm-hmm.
and, really? Really? And now he's
Yeah.
bringing this, like, a humanness, even though he's using our
Mhm.
gods and goddesses, like, it's so good, Majet, so good. But it
Right.
really is an important it's such an important, like, thing, but I know I'm guilty, and I feel like it sounds like you're like me, and, we just take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
That, okay, we're
Yeah.
doing this because, okay, we put our pants on one leg at a time like everybody else, but we don't remember that the thing that we're putting it on is slightly different. Like, and for myself, I am in a lot of different high-end groups. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one who really looks like me. Actually, I am the only one who looks like me. You too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Outside of the
Unfortunately.
group that you are creating, right?
Right.
And so,
Right.
and what I find
Totally.
interesting when I'm in those groups, I'm a little bit more quiet. Okay, naturally I'm quiet anyways, but I'm just listening and I'm like, okay, if I share what's on my mind or what I'm walking through right now, it is not going to land. And I've literally seen it, felt it, and I'm like, wow, okay.
Right.
Wow. It's time to change that. I don't know exactly how that's going to go, but when you are out in the community, you're taking your community with you, right? So I noticed you're sharing a lot about Asian women lately on your social media channels. How does that feel as being the leader of that?
Yeah. So like I don't even know if it's like I'm leading it, right? Like I don't even know. It's just that I know how it feels like to be different, right? To like just like what you're saying, like you go to places, spaces, right? Whether that's a professional space or that's a networking space or even a party or like like something fun. And then I didn't recognize this when I was younger, when I'll go to these spaces and I was really the only brown person, right?
Mm,
Around, and I love these people. I enjoy their company, right? And and like it's great. However, like you still you feel it that okay, I'm different, right? I'm still
yeah.
different, right? And I didn't recognize that when I was younger, and as I got older, the more I recognize the microaggressions, right? The not feeling seen, right? Or not being heard, right? Or being understood, right? In spaces wherein you're a minority, or you're the only one,
Hmm.
right? But then and whether that was intentional for the space or the group, right? That's homogeneous, right? Um it's like like whether that's intentional or not, it's it's I still feel some type of way, right? And I didn't
Yeah.
really recognize this and actually dove more into it until as I got older, right? And now I realize that when I'm in a space where in it's different type of people, right? And women who either look like me or or have the same experience as me, or or just a diverse group of women, right?
Yeah.
Of age, of skin color, or even the field that they're in. When you put all these people, all these different women, right, in one space, then you don't know, you don't, well, at least for me, I don't longer feel alone,
Yeah.
right? Like there's power in that. But if you feel like you're sticking out like a sore thumb, right? Then all that insecurities and all that, like for me, right? Like the insecurities of like, do I belong in this space? Right? And
Right.
like, am I, or are they looking at me like, why are you here? Right? Like, and then all this insecurities and this negative thoughts and like self doubts. I'm like, maybe I should just shut up, right? But then when you're in a space that is diverse, you're just like, oh, like it's for me, it's more comfortable. So therefore, my mission is to really create spaces wherein, like there's all these different types of women in one space, so we know like the stereotypes that we have can be questioned, right? And
Yes.
then we get to know people, right, who we don't typically hang out with, right, or no, and then get to know more about that and create more curiosity and acceptance and and connection. So when it comes to me being a leader in that, I guess, like
Wholeheartedly.
right, like it's like and that's what I want DivaGirl, like to really be known for. Like you go
Well,
into a
I think
space,
you've
it's
done an
DivaGirl.
excellent job because I was just going to say for those listening who are like, I want to be part of this, we'll drop the link for the Diva Girl to join the Diva Girl community in the show notes. But I highly recommend getting into the spaces with Majet because it is so inclusive. And it's funny, if she doesn't see you, she will come find you. She does that for me because she knows I'll go off in my little world over here and she'll be like, hey, we're doing this. Come on. Hey, we're doing this. Come on. And I think I want to just go back for a second. When we were younger,
Yeah,
for myself,
yeah.
I felt the difference, but I used it as, oh, there's something wrong
Mm.
with me. Now we get to use it
Right.
as our superpower and be like, look, I know exactly what you're going through right now in my own way. Here's how we can walk together through it. So now we get to use it as that point of power. And that's why I'm saying from a leadership standpoint, that's wholeheartedly what you're doing. And you are so inclusive, you bring people in to the fray, into the fold, and be like, hey, come on, let me show you over here. Let me bring you over there and let me introduce you this way. And even just the simple, hey, how are you? We need that. As humans, we crave that connection, that sense of belonging. So my hat's off to you for definitely creating that space. I don't know if you see it yet, but I hope this mirrors that for you. I it is it is high time that there are more of us that look like us that are stepping into this, that are stepping into taking the pain that we felt for sure, because it's tough to feel so different at such a young age. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And now take that and bring it to the forefront. Be like, hey, I am different. And here's how I can support you. Whether it be like for Majet, whether it be for you through like the trauma counseling, because I know another woman, a friend of mine or a colleague of mine who also she's in trauma counseling, and the primary people she's helping are first responders because the
mm,
amount
mm,
of small t's, big t's they see on a
yeah,
day-to-day basis is huge.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And it's across all color, creed, race, everything.
Sure. Yeah,
And actually, let's talk about the big T, little t for a second, because as
yeah,
women, minorities, as humans, can you share a little bit when we say big T, little t, like one, what does that mean? And I think I would love to focus on the little t's because it tends
yeah.
to build up, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I hear this a lot, right? Especially when people find out, like, that I'm a trauma therapist. Oh, I never had trauma. Sure, you don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea that trauma, right, is like when you have trauma, you have PTSD, and people with PTSD are people who have gone to war, right, or who were attacked or even abused, or like there's like this natural disaster, right, or an accident or death, right? Those are
Yeah.
the common things that people think when they hear trauma. It's changing, right? More and more people are realizing that trauma is not just that, right? Those are
Yeah.
traumatic, those are shock traumas, right?
Yeah.
And then we have the complex traumas. And the complex traumas are like mostly what you're talking about when it comes to little t's, right? And those are the feelings of neglect, abandonment, you know, rejection, and fear, right? Like all those different things. And a lot of that has to do with the attachment, right? The
Yeah.
people who we grew up with, right? The people who took care of us or didn't take care of us, right?
Oh,
And can you hear me? It got all
yeah.
funky. We're good? All right. Are we good? Can you hear me?
Oh, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Let's check.
I'm here.
That was
Can you
the
hear
first
me?
ever happened to me.
Uh-oh.
I was like, where did everything go? Everything went blank on this side. That's okay. I'll edit this part
No
out
problem.
and then I'll
Okay.
redo it. So we're talking about big T's, little T's.
Yes, we
Okay.
are. So, um, as I was saying, like,
The
so
complex.
yeah, the complex traumas, right? The complex traumas, a lot of that has to do with the attachment, right? Our attachment with our caregiver, right? With the people who we grew up with, our parents, our grandparents, like how they made us feel, right?
Yeah.
And people don't realize that we internalize so much stuff that
Yes.
we witnessed in our childhood, right? And we blamed ourselves for that. So here's the thing about trauma. Trauma is not the actual event, right? It's not. It's not the event. Trauma is, so those events that happen, we call that significant events. Now, the trauma is how we felt, the emotion we felt when that significant event was happening, right? And it doesn't have to be just one significant, it can be repeated events, right? And then we felt an emotion, and then we didn't get a chance to process those emotions because we never felt safe enough and we didn't have anybody to talk about it, right? Therefore, we carry that trauma. That's a trauma. And we carry that around, right? And we grow up, right? We get older, we become adults, and we carry that trauma with us, in our bodies. Now it gets stuck there, right?
Yeah.
Until we get a chance to feel safe enough with someone to process those feelings that
Yeah.
you felt when those significant events were happening. So yeah, I'm gonna pause.
No, I love that you're bringing this up because so much of who we become as an adult was shaped when we were a child. By the time we're 7, we've taken in the world around us and we have internalized it. And it speaks to this, like there's that direct connection. Majority of adults are still that wounded 7-year-old, and you're going
Hell
through
yeah.
life thinking that, oh, okay, I'm in control and here's what I'm doing. And all the while, it's your subconscious mind where these things typically reside, in the subconscious where you're not conscious of them. 95%
Mhm.
of your brain sits there, your habits sit there, your behaviors sit there, and then you wonder why the same shit keeps happening to you and you feel like you're in this cycle. Whether it be someone verbally abusing you regularly or someone you just like nothing ever goes right, and it's that part of you that thinks that that's safe because that's what
Yeah.
it knows.
It's familiar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when
Yeah.
someone's coming to you and they're like, okay, Majet, I don't know what's happening. Why? What is this? How is this how you're introducing like I don't want to call it a trauma response, but like this involuntariness of it, right?
Mhm.
For the South Asian culture, though, this is a very for lack of a better word, it's like a taboo topic. We don't talk about
Oh,
that stuff.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
if there are South Asians listening, which there are, one, I would love for you, I give permission all the time, but I'm one voice. If someone is listening and they're like, oh my God, no wonder, how did you even acknowledge it for yourself, let alone getting help for it? Because those are two really taboo, both are taboo, right? We don't talk about it. Like
yeah,
we don't self acknowledge and then we don't get help. Like, how do we
yeah.
start to shift that narrative for others?
Yeah, and it's not easy, right? Like when you because like it's like your body, right, is telling you that okay, something is uh, it's unhappiness, right? It's like you don't feel fulfilled, and especially in a lot of Asian culture, like South Asians, like you have this list of the things you need to do to be happy or to be successful, right? Not even
Mm.
happy. Let's not even talk about happiness. Let's talk about
Happy is not
success.
on the list.
Yeah, happy is not on the good point. It's not on the list. It's like success. How are you going to look successful to other people? So you have this list of like you need to do these things, achieve these things, and then you'll be successful. And then you check all these boxes, right? Go to college, get a great job, get a retirement plan, and you get married, have children, have a big house, fancy cars, right? And then it's like, oh, you're successful. Then you check all this, but then you realize that, but I don't like. Why do I feel like I still need more? Why can't I feel content? Why can't I, like I don't feel happy, right?
Mm,
Because happiness was not part of your programming. It's all about you have to do this to be successful, right? And it's
yeah,
all based on outside forces, right? And nothing about the inside. That is what life is supposed to be, right? To
yeah,
feel, right? And to feel fulfilled, to feel happy. No one else can do that for you. No, nothing. Like no material things can do that for you because it has to come from within. So here comes a client who's from a South Asian culture or from an Asian culture coming to me saying that I've done everything my parents told me to do, right? But I still feel empty. I still feel empty. And because you had suppressed your authentic self so much before the age of 7, right? You said that, right? Because you have suppressed that so much to please the person you're attached to, our parents, right? Because
almost any of our elders, right? Because in our communities, I think yours
true.
is very similar to mine. It's very mixed
Yeah.
bag and everybody is involved, at least back then.
Yeah.
And then on
Yeah.
top of it, you are always taught to respect your any elder or someone in
Yeah.
authority. So now your teachers,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
like that whole authoritative persona,
Yeah. And it's
right?
like, you have to respect them, you have to, and if you deviate from that, you're a bad kid,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, like, and your worth, like, you start to feel worthless, you start to doubt yourself because you're like, okay, well, I'm not making them happy, right? I'm not studying well, so they're upset, so I'm not making them happy, I'm a bad kid, right? What else can I do to make them happy? Because my self-worth is based on whether this person, right, this grandparents or this parents are gonna, approve of what I'm doing, right? Or be happy because, like I have the good grades and I'm following what they want. And when we keep doing that and we start to learn that at a very early age, we start to suppress our authentic self. And now we're showing up for others and we're never showing up for ourselves. And then now when we get older and accomplish everything that other people had wanted us to accomplish, thinking that we want that too, right?
Yeah.
Because now we forget who we truly are,
Right.
right? At this point, we're like, why am I not happy, right? Because you have forgotten who you truly are. So our work together will be digging deeper and looking for that person that got lost, right? That was so suppressed, right? Because what's familiar for them is that I need to make sure that other people are approving of this,
Right.
right? And get their approval and that they are happy, because if they're not happy, then my worth is nothing,
Mm.
right? And it's so sad, right?
It is.
And
And I think, look, our parents or that generation, the elders, they did what they knew. But
What the older generations, right,
exactly,
have.
because they were
And
also in that sense of, okay, we have to accomplish for so many, especially minorities in
right.
general, you need to do in order to be. So the question of like, okay, but am I happy about it? It's not on the table because it didn't fit the times. But now we're in a
Yeah.
different generation and we get to rewrite that. We get to start saying, does it actually fulfill you? Because I think like what you're talking about, once we get to like, I don't want to put an age on it, but typically around it starts around the 30s where
Yeah.
you start to feel this thing inside, and it's almost like your soul is calling you back to be like, hey, I'm here. It's like knocking, and that calling only gets louder. So either you're going to completely ignore it and then depression starts like massively,
Okay.
or you're going to
Yeah.
start to investigate it. So if you're listening and you're feeling this it's like this, I call it an angst, but there's a better word for it. But it's this feeling that won't go away. And if you're having
Hmm.
that, definitely reach out. You know, work
Yeah.
with, reach out with Majet. All her stuff will be, all her like connections and links will be in the show notes. But this is that
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
We are the generation that gets to help rewrite this
Yeah.
for all of us.
Exactly. I love what you're saying there, right? The message that I'm hearing from you is that when we heal ourselves, we don't only heal ourselves, but we're also healing the generation before us and the generation after us. The thing is, we're not here to blame the older generations. We're not. They were in
100%
survival
correct.
mode, right? They were in survival mode and they had to survive that. Like they had to work hard, they had to be the quote unquote model citizen, right? And have these dreams and achieve these dreams and work really hard, right? Because it was survival, right? We
Yeah,
have to prove to Americans, we have to prove to the world that we
that we
are
belong.
that we belong and that we deserve a space here, right? So I don't blame them for that. We're not blaming them for that. And it actually paved the ways for us, the younger generation, to be able to be where we are, right?
Yeah.
And those are all good things, right? However, like, the survival is not sustainable. You can continue surviving, but
Right.
it's not sustainable. It's not going to bring you happiness. It's not. It will make you survive, and and it will give you all the accolades, and it can give you all the the material things that you can have, but still have that empty feeling inside, right? And you can be grateful for all the things that you have and the things that you have accomplished, but then there's something inside of you that is not being fulfilled because, like what you said, like you have suppressed it. Like it's going to be knocking, like that angst or that like hello, I'm here, like
Yeah.
and you're like, am I gonna listen to that, right? That's or am I gonna ignore it and continue surviving, right?
Right.
Or am I gonna open the door to this thing, this feeling that keeps knocking, and explore that, right? And explore it with somebody like you, like a life coach or a therapist, or hypnosis is something that you do, right?
Yeah.
And biohacking, like there are different ways to explore that part of you, to not get rid of the programming, but like to set aside the programming that we learned, that we're familiar with, and open up our minds and our hearts and to exploring that angst that keeps knocking, right? Because
Yeah.
when we put some investment or some time on that, then that's when love and acceptance and fulfillment comes blooming. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So
can feel it
yeah.
as you're saying it. I'm like, yes. I feel it. But no, it's so true. And that's it. And then that is when you step into your point of power. You step
Hmm.
into deciding for yourself, like, oh, I can be this and that. Like I'm a huge proponent of the word and because we've been taught like it's either this or that, but it's not true. Again, and it's because the older generation were in survival mode. Look, I don't care where you come from. It is not easy to move countries, have children with you, learn a whole new way of being, and then you come to America where the English, there are certain words that have different connotations. Like one word can mean four different things. Like, can you imagine having to understand all of that? I've moved around the world, and there is I was lucky everyone spoke English, but you're coming to America where everyone speaks English, but you may not. So now you're having to learn. And you're learning
Mhm.
while surviving, while trying to work, while trying to raise a family. I never discount that, because that grit that the older generation had, it's instilled in us. It's through epigenetics. We all know that, right? And but stepping into that point of power and saying, "Oh, I am a badass. Look at everything that has brought me to this point, and now I get to bring it to that next level." So we get to go from survival to thriving. And that's what I'm
Mm.
hearing you say. We get to now step into thriving. And that is like living on rocket fuel. And it just feels so sexy,
Yeah.
right?
100%. Yeah, yeah. I got chills. Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
just feels so good. So, Majet, before I let you go, if someone is like, "Ooh, I need to talk with Majet. I'm loving what she is sharing and I want to explore this with her." How are they going to how should they get in touch with you?
Yes, so I am on social media. I am, when it comes to counseling, follow me or slide into my DMs.
Yeah. Send me a message.
Send me a message, right? Like I feel so cool, right, saying that out loud. But but seriously,
I love it. Feel cool. Own it. Work it.
so yeah, so it's at Philly Trauma Counselor,
And we'll
and
have it
you
in
can
the show
also.
notes too.
Yes, yeah. And then, you can also go to my website, resilientmindworks.com, and you
Okay.
can find out different ways to connect with me. And I look forward to hearing, your story and, how I can help support you.
Love it. And all of this will be in the show notes. And if you're looking for community, we'll also drop the DivaGirl Tribe community link down below. And look,
Mhm.
no matter what you're doing, own it. You get to choose now. Own it. Own it. And Majet is walking proof. I'm walking proof. There's so many of us out there that are showing you that the possibility is there. You just get to, I don't want to say just, you simply decide that it's time. Yeah. Majet, before
Yeah.
we head out, any last words you want to share with the community?
Yeah. I want to stay in that theme that you're talking about, which is, life is meant to be lived, not just to survive, right? And
Yeah.
we can be survivors. All of us, we are who we are because of what happened to us, and we survived those hard things. But we don't have to stay there. What happened to us should not define us, right? Therefore, we need to heal, and so that we can thrive, just like what
Yeah.
Chaitali is saying, and find fulfillment in life, because life is meant to be lived, not just to survive.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Soul Mastery, and I am your host, Chaitali Desai, and we are here to help women reclaim their voice for purpose, power, and profits. Till next time, thank you so much for tuning in. Majet, thank you for being on. And ladies and gentlemen, it is